Welcome to the PressBox.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
0.9. Tie game at 72. Illinois to inbound to the corner. Brandon Paul looking to inbound. Gets to the Griffey. Layup.
Smith, 420 to right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy.
Williams to tie it with a three. He goes.
Welcome to the PressBox with Keith Gibson, episode 2 here in July. I am here with sports director for Neuhoff Media Danville, Eric Loy. And Eric, thank you for joining me today.
It is no problem, sir.
Today we're going to talk about the MLB All-Star break, the winners and losers from the first half. We'll also talk a little NBA free agency. And then you and I will talk a little bit about the IHSA having a possible chance to come back to Champaign for the state tournament on the boys' side.
We'll see.
Yes, definitely. So, Eric, we'll start off today, a little MLB at the All-Star break, the winners and losers. Cardinals making a push here late to get back in to the race in the NL Central, and in fact tied the Brewers last night, first place last night, for the NL Central at the break. And what do you think of that so far, the kind of push they've made?
Well, they've made a good push. The problem is now they're without Molina, maybe for the rest of the season. And that's not somebody you can just pick up somebody and stick in, because not only is he obviously a great defensive catcher, but he's become an excellent offensive player. He was always a good contact guy, a guy who could hit behind the runner and put him in. Now he's added a little bit of power and changed that from a contact hitter into a base hit hitter. And that's going to be tough in a lineup that has had a tough time driving in runners to get both of those out of the catching spot. They signed George Kataris, which is, the Cubs let him go in spring training after giving him $1 million. If you can't make the Cubs...
You're exactly right.
Yeah,
you're exactly right, Eric. And Molina is the heart and soul of that organization. He really is. He has been. He's kept everything together. He helps that pitching staff, which is quite young after you get after Adam Wainwright, that now you're looking at where do you go from here? A.J. Brzezinski was just recently let go, designated for assignment by the Red Sox. If you want a veteran guy to come in and handle a younger pitching staff, you can do that. But you're right, George Kataris is not the answer. Perez, probably not the answer there either. So it'll be interesting to see how the Cardinals do.
Well, if they pick up Brzezinski, that would be terrible. That would just be awful.
I could see them making a deal for a catcher. You got Kurt Suzuki up in Minnesota who could be available. Mm-hmm. You've got some other guys out there who could be available. And I think they'll swing something, because having Molina out of that lineup is huge, especially with the other injuries they've had to their pitching staff.
Right.
They're going to need some leadership in the clubhouse.
Shelby Miller and the bunch. Garcia's out for the season. They're able to bring up some guys from the minors who have arms but no experience yet. And that's going to be the tough thing. Now, the Brewers have been slumping mighty fiercely, and they've been overachieving up to this point. So
I agree with you totally on that.
they're coming down back to their level. So now the Cardinals have a chance to make some hay. They've been underachieving on offense. So if that comes back to normal and the Brewers come back to normal, then the Cardinals really have a chance. But they're going to have to do it mostly on offense and hope that the pitching staff that they have left sticks around. They're going to need a catcher who's got experience but isn't a complete jerk in the clubhouse like Brzezinski.
Yeah, I agree with you totally.
Now, there are other players named Molina who are brothers that catch. So, that could be a proposition. Get a hold of one of the other flying catching Molina brothers and have him come behind the plate for a while. Wouldn't be a terrible thing. They just need someone who's got some experience who can stand up to it for a while. Suzuki would be good. He's not a hitter anymore. He really wasn't that much of a hitter to start with, but he'd just be that veteran presence you have in there that can settle it down. The Cardinals in the past have never shied away from making the deal for a veteran that will push them over the top. You can look back over the years, back to the 80s, when they've signed guys in their last year to help them do it.
Well, and you look at guys they brought in like Will Clark, Larry Walker,
Dan Dreesen,
right.
Cesar Cedeno.
Right, things like that. And Mazalik does a great job for the Cardinals organization, making those things happen, making them a winner, and that's why they're always successful. So I expect them to make a deal before the deadline, and I expect them to – I have them as a winner as part of the first half of the season. For as little offense as they've put up to still be in first place, I think that's a winning.
Well, I think that they can take – I don't know if they'll take it as a win, but not a terrible loss. I don't think you come out of the first half of the season with a win, losing Garcia for the season and losing your all-star catcher for the season. I don't think you can count that as a win yet, but the fact that they're not out of it and very much in it and pointing upwards, I'll take it as a positive, but not a win.
And the Brewers, we just spoke about them. We talk about the NL Central a lot. We're in the Central part of the country, but the Brewers were a team that was very hot started off, and now you've seen them really fade. And that's a team that can be plagued by injuries. You look at Aramis Ramirez, he can be plagued by injuries, an all-star this year. He is not young anymore. Braun has had injuries. Their pitching staff has kind of went downhill. So
pitching's really not anything to write home about.
No, but they got good pitching early, and that's what helped them get out to this division lead. But now they're falling behind, and I see them just continually falling behind in the second half.
Yeah.
I don't see them making another push. The team I really think would be interesting would be the Pirates. If they can make a move, I think they could still be in it. They're only 2.5 out right now in the division.
Yeah, but they're just not firing like they were last year, and I think they're coming back down to earth too. I mean, they're not as terrible as they were 2 years ago. Remember, 2 years ago they actually made their way into contention and then just died on the vine. They're not as good as they were last year, but this isn't a great division right now with the Cardinals having some injury problems. So they can keep themselves in contention the rest of the way. And, the Reds aren't completely dead.
No, Reds have had some injury issues, too, which you've seen all over baseball. So I think one safe thing you and I will both agree on is the Cubs won't win the division.
Yeah, the Cubs may be going for another triple-digit loss.
I don't think they'll go triple-digit losses. I really don't.
Well, they did win twice since they made the big trade.
Right, and they brought up Alcantara this week. Who came in and played and did a fantastic job and may have won himself a second base job for the Cubs for the rest of the year.
Well, he hits about twice as good as Olt or Barney, which is not really saying a lot.
No, you can still hit 250 and do that.
Yes, you can definitely do that. And he can play a couple of different positions, second base and the outfield. They're going to keep with him. I think someone's going to go down. I think you're going to see a lot more of Valbuena. They really need to send Michael down if they're going to try and get anything out of him whatsoever because he is so overmatched.
He is. You're exactly. He has 12 homers, drove in 40, but he's hitting $126.
You can do that closing your eyes and swinging.
I'm pretty sure you and I might be able to grab a couple hits. I think he's got 15,
not home runs,
16
maybe,
hits.
But most of them are home runs. But right now he is mentally beat, if nothing else. He might end up being okay, but his numbers in the minor leagues weren't all that great, and he hasn't hit over 200 above AA.
Yep, you're exactly right.
His AAA numbers were below 200. So how do you expect him to be better? They had the corrective eye stuff, and they played around with that, but he still can't field. He can't play a position. So there really isn't any reason for him to be hogging up a roster spot.
Well, I think he's just a placeholder right now, too, because you have Chris Bryant, who's down in AAA, tearing the cover off the ball.
Yeah.
And you have Javier Baez, who's they're going to look at maybe moving to third as well, who hit a 2-run homer in Sunday's Futures game. Mm-hmm. So, Old, I think, is just a stopgap for the younger guys who can produce and come up.
Well, that would be nice if he would stop anything, but he can't.
Well,
he's just a gap.
You're exactly right.
No stop, just gap.
I think we've covered the NL Central. Now you look at the NL East, you got the Braves, the Phillies looking from the outside in. I'd call them a loser in the first half, the Mets as well.
Too old, the Phillies.
Right. I think if they're smart, they'll start moving some veteran guys, but I don't know if they will.
I don't know if anybody take him.
Right, with the high contracts. Hamels may be the only one, but he's owed a lot of money. So you look at the Braves, and I got to see a little bit of them this weekend, watch them play the Cubs. Braves are a team that I think can contend are one of the better teams in the National League.
Well, they've snuck up. They got the Upton brothers, and they really got what they wanted out of them. But in Hayward, But the thing is, they've got other players who have come up and taken up that second baseman. They brought up low. What's his name?
Let'swell or
something along those lines. He stepped in and stolen second base away.
Well, it didn't
from
take
Upton.
a whole lot from Dan Uggla.
Yeah, Uggla wasn't doing anything, so he stepped in now. He's got second base, and they're always going to have a little pitching, and they can certainly do something in that division.
And the Nationals are another team that, if they stay healthy, I think could make a push. That could be a very interesting race in the second half.
Yeah, I want to see how Tanner Roark does in the second half of the season. I did a couple of games of his over in Champaign when he was with Illinois, and his Illinois career didn't end on a high note, but he ended up getting kicked off the team or leaving the team, depending on who you ask. But ever since he's been in the pros, he's done nothing but win. Now, the Cubs got him a couple of times, but his earned run average is still low. He's got a great strikeout to walk ratio. He just He's probably going to be a 15-game winner this year.
Yeah, he's 8-6 right now at the break, and so for them, that's huge. I mean, for a guy they picked up and was in the bullpen mostly.
And he's never been regarded as a high prospect, but he's going to be a guy who's going to win double digits this year and keep him in the game. He's going to be fun to watch, and the Nationals certainly have a shot at him.
Now, you look at the NL West, you look at the Dodgers, the cream of the crop, Giants out there. That NL West is pretty good until you get down to Colorado and Arizona, who aren't good at all. Arizona, I think you'll see they're a big loser in the first half. Colorado, same thing.
Padres.
Are they still playing? But besides the Giants and Dodgers in that NL West, there's not much good baseball being played. And if the Rockies are smart on my part, they're going to get rid of Troy Tulowitzki before the trade deadline.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they will because the owner says, what about ticket prices? And I understand his point, but for future, you think now's the time to get rid of Tulo?
Well, you're looking at the situation with Colorado kind of the same way you look at Chicago. People are still coming to the ball games no matter they're not winning. And so why would management make a decision to do something about it right now? You don't have to, because you're still going to get 38,000 people showing up at Wrigley Field if you had, well, they do have a AAA team out there most of the time, or an entire team of fifth outfielders they had at one point this season. And the Rockies don't have to throw a lot out there because there's nothing else really going on out there right now.
You're exactly right. And the Padres, that's just a Chase Headley going to be a free agent after this year. Their biggest trade chips, and I read it this morning, Houston Street and Ian Kennedy in a trade talks right now with the Angels of Anaheim, possibly going that way. If you do that, you're looking to deplete Carlos Quentin, one of those other guys. So the Padres have some trade chips, some older veterans that can help out. And
boy, Quentin got old in a hurry.
He did. He did very old. Knee injuries and his knees.
And maybe they found his birth certificate.
That could be too.
Yeah.
Then you look at the Diamondbacks, a team that really a lot of people had high hopes for beginning of the year. They've just been struck with pitching injuries and guys aren't producing besides Paul Goldschmidt. Trumbo's been on the DL. You don't have a whole lot of firepower there. So that's another team that I think you'll see be sellers at the break, and I would say would be a loser for the first half. Dodgers, Giants, both winners in the first half. Would you agree?
How can you go against Don Mattingly?
Well, I agree. He's an Evansville guy. I've always liked Don Mattingly. Yeah. And Kershaw, they've got a great 1-2 punch in Kershaw and Greinke.
They're the Dodgers, when they're at best, they always have two guys that are the horses. Those guys are the horses. And everybody else, whatever you get out of them, as long as they're not 0-18, they're going to be fine. They got two big horses, and they're going to ride them all the way through.
And they will. And then, it'll be a nice race down at the end because the Giants have kind of fallen back. Dodgers are now in it. And the Giants have great pitching as well, so they're a winner. And it'll be interesting to see in the NL. Now, we'll go to the AL real quick. Mm-hmm. Let's talk with the AL East. Yankees, Red Sox aren't just sitting at the crop of the division right now. I would call the Red Sox big losers in the first half.
Yeah, they've been terrible.
They have been. Yankees are old. They haven't played very well either, but somehow they're not, I think, 6 games out of first.
Because they know how to play. Ichiro's going okay.
Yeah.
They're just, as long as you hit it to them, they're going to make the play. Don't ask them to go too far. Old age and treachery might win it out for them.
It might. Then you can look at Baltimore, which I think is right there in the thick of things, too. I like where Baltimore's at. I think losing Matt Wieters is going to hurt their starting catcher. I think they've got to make a move there. Toronto, after spending all the money last year and having a terrible season, has played well. Yeah. And it's been all from Edwin Encarnacion, Jose Bautista. They're getting good pitching from Mark Burley. They're winners for me in the first half.
Yeah, Encarnacion has become a gigantic hitter. He's hit some home runs that have been monsters.
And then you look at a team that everybody thought would contend for a World Series in Tampa Bay, and even though they've played good of late, have not really played well all the first half. And I think David Price will be out of there. I don't think he leaves by trade deadline. I think it's off-season move for them.
We'll call them Tampa Blay because you have to add an L in there for the losing.
That's true.
A really bad L.
So let's go the Central. Who do you like in that division to come out, by the way, for the second half?
For the East?
Yeah.
Yankees.
Okay. I'm going to hold you to that.
Because they still got money to spend.
You're right.
They always will have money to spend.
Let's go to the AL Central. You look at the White Sox, the Royals, the Twins, Cleveland Indians.
Well, the Mauer experiment at first hasn't gone well.
Yeah, that division's not real good.
No, I don't think it really matters who comes out of that division.
I will agree with you wholeheartedly on that.
I don't think it'll be the White Sox.
Kansas City vying for a playoff spot possibly, which is great to see.
It'd be nice for the Royals fans who are long suffering since the Brett days, but
they're a winner in my book for the first half as well as they've played. Everybody else in that division, I wouldn't really call a winner.
Doesn't make any difference.
No. So then you look at the West, Houston. They have problems.
Houston. It shouldn't even be in baseball right now.
Right. Well,
you talk about a team that. You talk about an embarrassing team.
But they're young.
They're embarrassing.
They are.
They're young with nothing.
Right.
You can be young and have no talent. That's what they've got.
The toughest division of baseball right now may be the AL West, Eric, with Oakland, Anaheim, Seattle, who's playing great baseball too.
Yeah, all of a sudden.
Yeah, and so you've got those guys in there with Houston and Texas isn't playing bad baseball.
They're still Texas.
But, and you're going to have, it's not the hot part of the year yet, so you're going to have some balls fly out of Arlington, but
they'll still make a gigantic mistake because they're Texas.
Right.
They
I
always
like
do.
Anaheim as winners first half. I like Seattle as big winners in the first half, and I like Oakland as winners in that division. And I like, you're going to think I'm crazy, Seattle coming out of the division.
Yeah, I think Anaheim makes some deals, and I think they've got more chips to make deals with, and more friends to make deals with, and more money to make deals with. They'll do something, and don't be surprised if an old man decides he just wants to play a little more and hits a few home runs in the second half.
Mr. Pujols?
Yes.
I would agree with
Once
you
he
there.
smells the chance to go into the playoffs, it might be a little smelling salts for him.
Well, you're listening with Eric Loy, sports director of Neuhoff Media Danville. I'm Keith Gibson. We thank you for listening to PressBox. We're going to take a quick break, come back, and we'll talk a little bit NBA free agency with Eric. So you're listening to PressBox with Keith Gibson. Welcome back to the Press Box. Keith Gibson, your host. Alongside with me today is sports director for Neuhoff Media Danville, Eric Loy. And Eric, welcome back.
Yes.
Talked a little baseball in our opening segment, being the All-Star break. Now let's switch a little gears to a bigger ball and the NBA. We've had a free agency frenzy going on with Carmelo signing back in New York, LeBron going back to Cleveland, Chris Bosh saying he's going to stay in Miami. What's your take on all this so far?
I am the most cynical person in the world when it comes to the NBA. I think it's all, whatever the NBA upper brass wants happens. And when you look at Cleveland getting 3 of the last 4 number 1 picks, no matter how the drawing came out, it was Cleveland. And then suddenly LeBron James, who nobody talked about leaving at the beginning of the year, leaving the Heat, all of a sudden, oh, wow, he's available to go. And where's he going to go? He's going to go right back to Cleveland. And it's not exactly the Da Vinci Code, but it certainly would think that the fix was in on some level. But that being said, LeBron James is the best player by 100 million miles in the NBA, and he'll make them a number 1 contender right away, and maybe they deserve it after losing him for 4 years. The biggest loser, I think, comes out to be the Bulls, because they had the opportunity and the money to do some things. They lose some players. They had a chance at Carmelo Anthony, who would have fit in really nicely, and maybe you get Rose to up his game a little bit, and you get kind of the synergy. You got nothing out of that, and you bring in Paul Gasol, who is just a little older than I am, to come over and play. And he's got a set. He's got a skill set. But it's a skill set that's 13 seasons old. And that type of skill set doesn't age well.
No, you're exactly right. And that was, I think the Bulls have to feel like they've lost out on a bunch. They didn't get Carmelo, who I knew they were hot and heavy after. There were talks about them going after Kevin Love from Minnesota, getting a trade. Yeah. That's not happened.
Well, the Boozer contract really messed him up.
It has. But now you've got Pau Gasol in Chicago, and as much as you say, yes, he's an older guy, and he is, I actually think he fits well there for this reason. Joakim Noah is there and will be a rebounding machine and do the little things that Paul Gasol can't do. Gasol can stand out 15 feet and shoot jumpers all day. He doesn't have to grind and work. You got Rose. I think they're still one piece away from being a contending team in the East, but I think they can be there.
Well, they're supposedly going to sign Kirk Heinrich.
And it's Heinrich out of Kansas.
I mean, he's going to shoot.
Right.
I
think they're one athletic guard away, point guard away, because I don't think Derrick Rose still. There's question marks around him, but I will agree with you, Eric, that Chicago has to feel like
basically
they're a bit of a
Darren
loser.
Williams away is what you're saying.
Right, pretty much.
Hall of Famer away from getting it.
But we talk about other things. I saw Paul Pierce signs with the Washington Wizards. Mm-hmm. Why?
Why not?
I guess they're going to give him a 2-year deal, so at his age, you might as well take it.
He's probably got it with things. If you're not in contention, trade me. Okay, fine.
Right.
But
and then
you're here to draw some people, maybe.
Then you got Bosch signing back with Miami for 5 years.
He's not going to.
And I don't blame him, though. If you're going to get that much money for 5 years at his age. And I really think, in my own opinion, his career is going down.
Yeah, he is a complimentary player going on supplementary right now.
And the one guy that left Miami along with LeBron and Bosch was Dwayne Wade, who's still unsigned. Mm-hmm. Don't be surprised if he ends up in Chicago.
I would be very surprised if he winds up in Chicago.
Really?
Because there's no reason for him to be in Chicago.
Well, he's a Chicago guy, and I think if playing with that team, that could just give him. His career is pretty much done. Dwayne can have flourishes of greatness still, but it comes in very small stints.
Do you think that he could live on the same team with Derrick Rose?
Yes, because if you can do it with LeBron, he can do it with Derrick Rose.
LeBron James is not the same type. LeBron James is a player, and everybody gets on him because of all the hype around him. He is still a great team player on the court.
Derrick Rose is not.
Derrick Rose and Wade are kind of cut out of the same mold, so I don't know how they fit as a 1-2 on the court. If they did, it would be really good. But I just think maybe Wade wants to be somewhere where he can kind of get a little bit more spotlight.
We'll see. There's a lot of time left in NBA free agency. There's still trade talks swirling around.
Where's Uwe Blop?
Where will the Cavs trade Andrew Wiggins in a deal to get somebody established like Kevin Love, which I think would be a big mistake on their part.
Yeah, get an iron lung. Is what
right.
Also, Chicago is going to sign a player from Europe, and the name escapes me. I have no idea about him. You're just a shot in the dark with some of these guys, and maybe he comes in and has a set that fits in with him. But I don't think they've kept up with the Joneses.
No, I don't think either. I think they're one of the biggest losers so far in free agency. As much money as they had to spend, as much talent as they were going after, and to come up with nobody but Gasol has to make you feel like we missed the boat on this one.
Yeah, but the Pacers are in the same boat. They haven't kept up with anybody.
They haven't, and then now I've seen trade talks of possibly Roy Hibbert leaving. So it'll be interesting. We've still got a little time in free agency of the NBA, but we're going to take another quick break, come back, and we're going to talk about a fun topic. We're going to talk about the IHSA State Boys Basketball Final, possibly coming back to the Champaign area. You're listening to Press Box with Keith Gibson. Back to the Press Box with Keith Gibson. Sitting in with me today is Sports Director for Neuhoff Media Danville, Eric Loy.
Hi.
Hi, Eric. Hey, we've talked a little bit baseball today. We've got your insight on that a little bit. We've talked about a little NBA free agency. Now let's talk about a little something closer to home with the IHSA, the Illinois High School Athletic Associations. Bid up for the boys and girls state basketball finals, which is currently in Peoria, is now up for bid coming up. And Champaign, which was held there for 77 years, looks to be placing a bid on that.
Well, good luck, because that Peoria doesn't want to let go. And Peoria knows exactly how to keep it. But I was there when Champaign lost it. And Champaign came in, stuffed shirt, egos to the ceiling. They had no thought that they were going to lose it. Champagne's been there for 77 years. Tradition. Well, the tradition was all the hotels would jump up their rates 2 or 3 times, and all the gas stations would jam people up, and the atmosphere wasn't particularly inviting for people to come down for basketball. Now, the kids love to play at the Assembly Hall, which I'm still always going to call the Assembly Hall. Sorry, guys. But that's not what the IHSA is after. They're after, on all of these groups, you can throw the NCAA into it, you can throw the IHSAA in Indiana into it, is eventually going to be money. And the money that they got for going to Peoria, plus everything around it, the experience, was just too much to pass up. Now, Peoria, if they're smart, and I think they are going to throw everything to the wall and try to lock them up for as long as possible. Good luck, Champaign.
Yeah, and I agree with you totally. The kids, it was a great atmosphere for players, but you are right. The fact that hotels were jacking rates up.
Oh, it's terrible.
Gas stations were gouging. It was a cluster. Let's be honest. It was a cluster when they were in town.
And they were so egotistical about it and belligerent about it that they just turned them off.
Well, and now I think they're realizing that the Assembly Hall, which it'll always be the Assembly Hall to me too,
yes,
State Farm Center, is getting redone. And will it look great? Yes. Will it be a great atmosphere for ball games? Yes. One of the things that the IHSA, and I listened to an interview with Keith Gibson, the executive director and on the board of the IHSA earlier this morning, was the fact that ticket prices are down, or ticket sales are down in Peoria. You're not seeing the crowd that you had in Champaign. The Assembly Hall was packed for every session. So that's something they're looking at, but it's going to take a lot for Champaign to get it back. I hope they do, because I've been at the tournament covering it for the media on both levels, at boys and girls, and at Peoria and Champaign. I like the atmosphere of Champaign better.
Yeah.
I think it's more centrally located. I think you should have the state tournament at the premier university in the state of Illinois.
Northwestern?
No.
Eastern?
No.
I thought I was thinking football again.
Yeah,
Sorry.
No. But that's a whole different topic for next week as we get closer. But I really would like the IHSA to come back to Champaign. I think there's more opportunity. But Champaign, you're right, their ego got so big it drove the IHSA out of it in the first place. Now it's almost like they're begging for them to come back and crawling and but it's going to take a big bid. It's going to take a big group effort for them to come back to Champaign.
Yeah, and I don't know whether they can do it or not, given that the two administrations of Champaign and Urbana, both of them having their problems getting things done. I don't know whether they can get their act together and do it. And there's a third thing that's involved here, too, and that's the university. The university is the one that's got to come through. When there have been times in the years, 20-some years I was over there, where what happened was the university decided it wasn't going to be a part of it. The university can't really, according to the NCAA, be a part of any of this negotiation. If the university backs away, it's their facility, and nothing's going to happen. They really need the university to buy into it, and I don't know how they can with the regulations the way they are. I really think that the way things are going in Peoria, they cannot afford to lose the tournament. So
I agree with you.
So they will go way out of. And can Champaign-Urbana get their act together enough? And can they promise something that they can deliver enough to keep it there? They already lost half of the football. I mean, every other year they lose football because of the Big Ten schedule. Last year, the championships weren't in Champaign.
No, and I was there right there. I was in DeKalb covering the game when the St. Joe Spartans.
How long a drive was that?
It was a long drive.
Yeah,
but
it certainly wasn't central to the state.
It wasn't, in fact. But that's a decision the IHSA made because U of I wasn't available.
That's right.
So now, though, you do have the U of I available. Again, you'll have a brand new renovated stadium. But can Champaign-Urbana make that bid for it? That's something that I'm anxious to watch over this fall and going into the spring, because they'll make the decision by next spring.
Well, I'm very cynical that even if they could win it, I don't know if they can hold it, because I don't think the businesses around there. Now you see what happens here in Danville, and we're doing it here in Danville. The Danville businesses make sure that when the tournaments come here, that there isn't a lot of gouging or anything. I don't think you have that in Champaign-Urbana. I think they'll they'll go right back to the gouging, and people are going to complain right away.
Well, I think if they do sign a deal and win the bid, I think it's only for maybe a 3 to 4 year plan and not long term. And I think you'll see Peoria, maybe even Bloomington, and a few other schools. I know for the girls' side that there's already been some bids from a couple places up near Chicago looking to bring the girls in, and we're just speaking of boys looking at Champaign.
Yeah.
But that
Chicago
doesn't make sense.
would be a long
and that doesn't
trip.
make any sense for anybody, especially the teams in Southern Illinois, where I grew up in Florida. To Chicago, it's at least a 4-hour drive, depending on where you're going.
Yeah, imagine a team coming out of Metropolis.
Right, and see, that makes no sense. That's why I want it back in Champaign. I'm a big advocate for it to be in Champaign, but as long as it's done the right way.
Yeah, it's got to be done the right way, and I really don't have any confidence that the businesses will do it the right way.
Yep, and I agree with you. Well, Eric, I appreciate you joining us this week here
Absolutely.
on the Press Box. If you're listening and you have any opinions, comments, let us know. You can follow me on Facebook.
You said nothing about the World Cup.
Yeah, Germany won. That's all I'm saying. But I did get breaking news while we are here, is that Adam Wainwright will start for the NL for the All-Star game Tuesday night, and John Farrell is named Felix Hernandez. So it'll be an interesting, fun game as a start. But, Eric, I thank you for joining us. If you want to follow us on Facebook, you can look up the Press Box with Keith Gibson. You can like our page there. You can follow me on Twitter at Keith_Gibson13, or you can just keep tuning in right here. Check out our YouTube, too, as well, on the Press Box. So for Eric, appreciate you joining us once again.
Absolutely.
I'm Keith Gibson. You've listened to Episode 2 of the Press Box. We'll see you next week.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
Hello, you play to win the game.
Yeah! Hey, we got 30 minutes for the rest of our lives! 30 minutes for the rest of our lives!
The pass.